Hello, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on?
Today we're going to be talking about the Tremors films. We recently have watched the entire Tremors franchise, Tremors 1 through 6.
We sat down through all 6 movies. Not in one,
Not in one sitting.
Not in one sitting. We spaced it out over a little bit of time, but basically
it would be a challenge to watch them all in one sitting.
We're highly anticipating 7, which is going to be dropping in October, fingers crossed.
Tremors 7 Island Fury. Michael Gross will be returning as Burt Gummer, franchise hero.
After he kind of took over for Kevin Bacon, he's just kind of been running away as the main protagonist. So it's been his show all the way since then, so to speak. So obviously it's not a Tremors movie without Burt. So we're looking forward.
I wouldn't see a Tremors movie.
I don't think I could bring myself to do it.
There'd literally be no redeeming factors at that point, to be honest. I mean,
there'd be the incentive is now gone. You can't.
I mean, we've gotten to the point in the franchise where there's basically no recurring stable characters except Burt.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the only thing you really have to like latch onto.
Right. He's the last bit of nostalgia, if you want to call it that, or
I guess we should say spoiler alerts.
Spoiler alert! You've been warned. We're gonna be talking about all 6 Tremors movies. Proceed with caution.
So I guess we should give a little background info.
Yep.
For people who aren't familiar with the Tremors franchise, the original film came out in 1990. Starred young Kevin Bacon as Valentine McKee. Fred Ward as Earl Bassett. So that was the duo in the first movie was Val and Earl.
Sadly, this was Kevin Bacon's one and done Tremors experience. He's written out or opted out of making any more movies, being in any of the sequels, so to speak. After that, there are rumors floating around on the World Wide Web that he might be returning for 7 as a cameo. Again, fingers crossed, people.
Fingers crossed. We can only hope.
I can only hope that we can have more Kevin Bacon and Tremors.
Just to see Burt and Val interact on screen would be such a great pleasure.
A legendary, epic moment in cinema history, so we're not going to want to miss that.
Earl did return for Tremors 2.
That's right, the second one.
And then he was hanging out with that kid. I forget the character's name.
Yeah, he plays the typical sidekick, young boy kid who wants to tag along for the ride, so to speak. And
then Burt comes back for that when he's got a bigger role. And then starting in Tremors 3, Burt basically becomes the face of the franchise.
He takes over, I'd say, at least by 3.
Yeah, and then they kind of repeat that idea of Earl having that young Ward sidekick kid character.
Right.
In Tremors, 5 when
Bloodlines.
When Bloodlines when Burt's son comes in and basically plays the same this cocky cameraman.
Yep.
Because wasn't the kid in Tremors 2? He was a cameraman kid too, wasn't he? It was Earl, we gotta make
Yeah, he was trying to sell merchandise.
Yeah, we gotta get you rich off with your Tremors, and he's like, "Kid, I don't do that no more. I lost all my money, and Val ran off with her."
Right,
Rhonda. Or
yeah, that's why they wrote out Kevin. They said he became wildly famous or rich or whatever.
Yeah,
he just sailed off into the sunset.
That's how they wrote him out. Just Val got rich and I didn't get anything. It's just okay.
And he got the girl. So Kevin Bacon.
Not that there was no fight for the girl, but I guess he did get a girl. And
that's true.
Bye.
It was like that with that big dramatic kiss at the end. As you'll see in 6. Burt is taunting his son because he's not kissing her hot enough or long enough or whatever it was.
Yeah, it wasn't sexual enough for him. And Burt's obsessed with firearms, and he frequently uses guns as life analogies. And
metaphors and shit.
And this big romantic kiss scene between Travis, Burt's son, and this
girl,
this scientist woman in where were they? Alaska? We
Canada.
just watched it today. Canada. And then he kisses her on the cheek and he walks back.
Yeah. He's all like, damn, I'm mad. I only got a kiss on the cheek. I'm upset with myself.
And Burt tells him that he wasn't packing the right heat basically in the kiss, and I don't know the guns that he used.
Something like a 22.
You're using a 22 and you got to be using a 44 or something.
Yeah.
And then he goes and kisses her again.
Around and they
my god! And she comes back and he turns around Like
he's simultaneous.
I thought it was going to be one of those like movie things where he like jogs up and like grabs her shoulder. Well, yeah, but she already is walking back to him in like a sensual fashion, as if she listened to the conversation, as if everyone could just hear the conversation, and she's just like, well, I guess I'd be down for another.
Yeah. Like, so they do a little simultaneous turnaround. They get their kiss again. Bert hits him with one of the, you know what I'm saying. He peeks over the glasses and then he's like, that was like a 357, but I guess that'll do, son.
Bert still wasn't satisfied.
Old horn dog. So then that's basically the end of 6.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we do enjoy Michael Gross's performance as Bert. It's over the top, but it works for what it is.
Yeah, call it a one-trick pony, but you know.
I would say, regardless of how you feel about the sequels, Tremors 1 actually is.
It's a pretty good movie.
Definitely worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
If you like horror movies and like old school monster movies, I mean, one thing we really respected about Tremors 1 is when you first start watching, at least for me, it feels kind of dumb at first. The dialogue is silly, but then you quickly realize that the dialogue is meant to be comedic, and the special effects really bring the movie up to a higher level.
100%.
The special effects in the first movie are great. It's all practical effects, and they're really impressive.
Yeah, the practical effects are always going to outshine, in my opinion, CGI. I mean, obviously, on the huge budget movies, CGI with like Avengers, it's like, okay, it looks good, but 9 out of 10 times, just if you actually take the time to build the practical models, the practical effects, that kind of thing, like you said, elevates the movie. And that's what they did in the first one. They didn't really cut corners. They just used a lot of practical effects, and you know, it's a silly horror movie. I guess that's how you would, if you had to put a, you know, tag on it. Silly, kind of like a silly horror movie, cult classic,
lighthearted. Yeah, it's not even really. It's not really scary. It's more of a thriller.
Yeah.
And because the dialogue is funny, that also makes it kind of unique. Because I mean, you know, if they tried to make that movie too serious, it's not that scary. So I guess it could just be kind of lackluster.
Plus, I don't know if they would have had as many sequels if they tried to kind of have a very serious. You know what I mean?
Because the sequels aren't serious at all.
There's nothing serious.
They pretty much jump the gun right with 2, and then they just spiral out of control.
We also wanted to rank the Tremors movies for you guys,
movies.
So you can kind of know what to expect with a little bit of a synopsis.
Tremors 1 through 6, baby.
Tremors 1 through 6.
That's a lot of hours of Tremors.
We might have to put it.
Watched.
Yes, sir. We might have to put in an updated version once 7 drops. Hopefully, that'll go straight to Netflix.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to have like a reaction or something to 7 when it comes out for sure.
Let's jump into our list here, worst to best. Yeah, so I think starting with the worst Tremors movie, I got to give it to 6.
Cold Day in Hell.
Cold Day in Hell. Sure. It doesn't do anything new, which isn't the automatic reason why I would put it down at the bottom. It's just, it's your typical, you know, Tremors plot. The characters, they get worse. The characters are just, each movie they've gotten worse, and the writing, I would say, is awful. The delivery doesn't help at all. Half the time, I don't know, you know, exactly who these characters are or what they're exactly doing in the movie. It's you know, I guess that comes back to writing being pretty weak. But you know, like I said, I know it's a Tremors movie, so there's only so much you can really do with it. But at the same time,
you're squeezing out. I mean, once you get to the 6th movie in most franchises, especially in like a horror franchise, they
kind of stick to the script, but it doesn't really work as well as previous ones, in our opinion. You know, so they're in Canada, and some, I don't know, Bert stopped paying his taxes, and
they had this weird plot line. Like Bert's always been, especially as they've developed his character more, as he's been the main protagonist, he's always sort of been this anti-big government, gun nut, like hunter. Well, he only hunts graboids, I guess, but which are the Tremors monsters.
That's Tremors lore right there. That's what you call them, graboids.
There's also ass blasters, which were presented in Tremors 3, and they shoot fire out of their ass.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then they fly. So that's the caliber of story writing that we're working with here in Tremors.
Real sophisticated.
Very, very sophisticated.
But
Bert has this like. He's always been this kind of like right-winger, gun nut kind of guy. But in Tremors 6, they had this weird plot line about him not paying taxes for like 30 years, and they harped on it a lot, and it almost felt to me like it was like the filmmaker's weird comment on not wanting to pay his own taxes or something. I don't know if you felt like that, but
you know, I almost just didn't think twice of it. But that's how they open you up with the movie. Is Bert is
so
like
first
sitting
scene
at
is
his convenience store.
This goofy IRS guy comes in and he's like a total joke of a character.
License plate reads taxman, U.S. government. You know,
and so they have a shot where they show Bert right in the beginning. He's watching the store for. I guess it's like the chain convenience store from the first movie, I guess, or whatever.
Because he's in perfection.
Yeah, he's still in perfection.
He's still in perfection.
All the other characters at this point, I guess, are just like nobody wants to be in them. Yeah. So Bert has this wind chime, and all the strings on the wind chime have bullet casings, and the sign on the wind chime says, what does it say?
So I need one more taxman to complete my wind chime.
Yeah, that's what it's. Yeah. And then right after that, the next subsequent shot is the taxman pulling up, and his license plate says U.S. Government Taxman, and he walks in, and then you think Bert's gonna shoot him, but he just shoots a target.
Right, because he's aiming the scope.
Yeah,
looking through the scope at the camera.
And there's this genuinely awful line delivery where the taxman's like, "You know who I am? I'm so and so from the IRS." And it's just like, and then you know,
not very clever.
No, it was not a good line. It wasn't a good line or a line delivery.
It was very much like, "Hey, Bert, I'm the government guy. You know me."
As if the sign that they showed on his car, his license plate, wouldn't be enough for the audience. They literally had him say the line, "You know me. I'm from the IRS, or you know, I work for the government." It's like, all right, I think we could have.
We're smart enough to
deduce that.
I'm just smart enough to figure that much out. So
tax man. Oh.
And you know what would have improved the scene, and I was holding my breath. I knew it would have been a long shot because they definitely didn't have the budget for this. And that opening scene with the Taxman, I wanted to hear Taxman by the Beatles. You know?
Yeah, that'd be fun if they made a Tremors movie where there's just a bunch of like pop and rock songs to like, fight Tremors. I mean, it wouldn't be too ridiculous for this franchise.
Yeah, this movie has no boundaries for too ridiculous.
No, everything after Tremors, whatever, basically, anything goes. Especially after like Tremors 2. Tremors 2 actually wasn't super off the rails yet.
Yeah, it was fairly grounded. I'd have to say, fairly grounded.
But yeah, with the Tremors 6 tax plot line, by the end of the movie, Bert's son, Travis, has. They basically, you know, got the government to do their bidding because they saved this government guy from one of the graboid worms.
He was a pretty weak antagonist.
He was a very weak antagonist.
He gets introduced.
Yeah, he basically he steals some illegal booze that they had in the plane, and then it's just like, Bert, pay your taxes. And then at the end of the movie, Travis is like, I'm only going to save you from these graboids if me and my dad never have to pay taxes again.
Yeah.
And then the government guy gives him a signed and sealed and delivered document that just says they never have to pay taxes again, which I'm like, I don't even really know if that's like a win for, I mean, I guess it's a win for Bert and Travis selfishly, but it's just like, all right, guys, like, great job. You beat the government. You don't have to pay taxes like everyone else. Again,
the weakest antagonist. You hardly had any screen time with him. He wasn't really threatening. He just kind of stole their booze off the plane, which they crash landed, so to speak. And then he just kind of...
And that had nothing to do with the plot anyway.
Yeah.
That weird thing where Bert was like, they're in like a plane.
I thought that,
a plane. This woman is piloting the plane, and Bert looks in this case of like moonshine she has.
Right.
He's like, I see you're smuggling illegal alcohol over a dry zone. Yeah. And then they get grounded because an ass blaster attacks the plane.
A solo ass blaster at 14,000 feet. Which they made it sound like was going to be a bigger part of the story's plot. Like, oh, why are they up in Alaska flying around this high in the air and booze? But that was, that was just...
There was a lot of fake science jargon that we probably did just kind of tune out after a point too. All these scenes in like the lab, and they'd be like, how do they survive in the cold? And they'd make up a bunch of science that doesn't matter anyway, and you're just like, well, okay, just get back to Bert shooting at them. But yeah, that alcohol plotline thing, I thought that was going to be like some kind of plot. Like, they make this whole big deal about Bert finding it in the plane, and then they get grounded and the government takes it, and then that's just never mentioned again. It's just like, I guess I don't know if it was just supposed to be comedic, or I don't really know what the point of that scene was.
Maybe it was supposed to be in a further detail, and it kind of got thrown out, scrapped.
And I guess it is sort of a weak plot one. Like, who cares if she's smuggling booze to Canada.
I mean, I told Pat after I watched it, I was like, I still don't really know what just happened. It was obviously Bert killing graboids, but it was a lot of nothing going on. It was a little bit all over the...
There was a lot more gross out humor we noticed than in the previous films, even up to 5. Tremors 6 had a lot of, it had like random penis jokes.
Right.
Right. Like the peeing scene.
Yeah, he had to pee off this tower very forcefully and violently, and I was like, I mean, I guess if that's going to attract the tremor away.
I don't even think that really would.
I don't think so. I think some of the stuff they put in there is honestly just to get a chuckle out of the audience.
Yeah, but it wasn't really funny.
Yeah, you just kind of sit there and go.
The opening scene in Tremors 1 is Kevin Bacon peeing off that cliff. He doesn't get eaten by a graboid. Yeah. Because I don't think they'd even hear that, because it's not that loud.
It's really not. Same to little
they really balls. The idea of the graboids is that they're attracted to noise. They don't have eyes. When you watch the earlier films, especially the first one, they make points to whisper and stay up on rock because they can't crash through like solid
stone.
Rock. Yeah, rocks. I'm like, you know, whatever. Rocks, guys. Kid. Rocks, kid.
Kid, the hard stuff, kid, not the soft stuff.
Dirt, they get right through the dirt.
They go through the dirt. Get off the dirt.
Yeah, in Tremors 6, they've really upped the idea that like any small noise can attract the graboids, whereas in the earlier ones, if you were being quiet, they wouldn't hear you.
Yeah.
Like they would whisper to each other from distances, and the graboids wouldn't hear them. It was more like vibration type sounds, I guess, that would attract them.
Yeah.
Cause like when they bang on stuff, they'll show up. But then in Tremors 6, they attract it with you know, like Newton balls, like the little those things.
Drop one and they start.
A little tiny set, like a little metal set. They were attracting the graboids with one of those
from like a couple hundred meters out. Remember the lady on the radio saying, "All right, 200 meters out." Okay, 100 meters out, closing in. It's like, that's a football field, ladies and gentlemen.
And the same with the peeing thing. Like, it's going to hear pee hitting the ground from a tower.
Over all the screaming and all the other white noise.
Bert and Travis both returned for 6 from 5. But Travis, we were discussing in 5, Travis he's got some bad lines, but he's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. He's played by Jamie Kennedy, who's like, I guess he's like a comedian. I'm not really familiar with him. But in 6, I didn't really think his dialogue was very funny at all. It was just like stupid, and they have a lot of lines where he'll just like ask about how hot girls are or reference, and it's just like, and he's like a middle-aged man. He's not like a
he's not a kid exactly.
I've said this in 5 and 6 as we watched them. I feel like his lines were written for like a 25-year-old character. He's like kind of this like horn dog party dude. He's got a leather jacket and like spiked hair.
Right.
But the man he's like 50 years old. So in the movies, but in Tremors 6, he was probably like 46 or 47 years older.
Right. They say 45 to 50 years old. So point being, he's not this, you know,
he's not like a child. So when he's asking like, "Oh, Bert, is she hot?" It's just like,
which he asked about 3 times on one phone conversation. So the man was simping pretty hard.
And it's like, dude, you're a grown man. Like, why are you talking like that? Because, you know, they have this whole, like, stupid father-son, like, funny relationship, but Bert's, like, 70 and Travis is, like, 50. It's not like, you know, in, like, Crystal Skull with Indiana Jones, like, when Shia LaBeouf is his kid. Not to say that's a good movie. Nobody thinks it's a good movie, but you get the idea of him saying, like, the young punk son kind of thing should be young-ish if you're gonna have stupid dialogue, like talking about how hot girls are and that you want to party and stuff. You know, rock and roll, daddy-o. He'll literally say things like that.
Unironic.
Pops, he calls them pops.
We're still not sure if he had a script or if he just ad-libbed the entire movie and they just were like...
I think some of those lines were ad-libbed, but they're still not funny, though.
Yeah, maybe they just picked from the best of the worst and like, I guess we'll put this line in over the other crappy line, and... Some of it's very far-fetched, and again, it's the 6th movie in a very silly franchise, so they have no rules, they just do what they want, and that's fine.
So next on our list, Tremors 5, Bloodlines. So the title comes from Bert finds out that he has a son, is the big reveal.
It just doesn't quite work all that well.
I don't think I expected it, because he just looks like this middle-aged man, and it's just like... And Bert's just so old. It's like, if you're going to have a surprise son plotline, I wouldn't expect it to be between a 50 and 70-year-old man. At that point, Travis would probably have made peace with his dad not being present. I don't think he'd be like, acting like a teenager, like, I gotta find my dad. And they're riding a motorcycle. And there was that opening scene where he's riding his motorcycle and like Rock music's playing. Oh my gosh, it was so bad.
This again, I think a lot of it comes back to just lazy and silly writing, and obviously the budget's always been pretty low on these movies, but you can at least try to make something with what you got. By Tremors 5, they weren't really trying too hard.
I guess the new formula for these most recent ones is someone calls Bert or comes up to him and they're like, we need your help to hunt graboids in some new area. And Bert's like, what? There can't be graboids there. And then he goes and he's like, God damn, there's graboids everywhere.
The old hero comes out of, not retirement, but like He always
comes out of retirement. You're totally right. Like, every time he's like, I'm done with hunting graboids, but then immediately just
after 5 minutes of
an AK-47.
You brought me another AK. 5 minutes of a phone conversation, and he's back on his game across the world. The shining moment, folks. Shining moment of Bloodlines.
Oh, yes, please.
Gotta be the antagonist kind of coming forward, right? As the antagonist. He's supposed to be this like I don't know, wildlife reserve character or something, and then he kind of betrays Bert and on this hunt because they want to capture one alive, and I think they grab an egg or something.
He ended up just being like a poacher.
He just is some kind of scummy poacher
to
or something.
Sell a graboid egg on the black market, I guess.
Then he knocks him out and locks him up in this cage in the middle of the South African desert, which no one saw coming, and
I don't even think the writers saw that one coming until they wrote it.
So what happens, Pat? I mean, they lock up at the cage, and you think, what? Okay, maybe this will be 30 seconds.
So it's like a 7-minute scene. Basically, Bert having complete and total mental breakdown, locked in this cage in the middle of the South African desert. He strips down and covers himself in his own pee. So I guess there's pee in every Tremors movie, really. Yeah. So Bert covers himself in his own urine to stay cool, right? He's getting dehydrated, he's getting delirious, he's crawling around and making crazy noise, he's screaming at the camera. And then a lion comes, and then the lion also pees on him. So basically Bert sits in a cage in the baking sun and gets pissed on over and over. I can't even put into words how ridiculous that scene is. It's very trippy, and it's really just kind of stuck in the middle of a relatively unsurrealist film. It's mostly grounded as a Tremors movie can be, I guess. And then there's just this insane scene right in the middle of the movie. And then after that, things just kind of go back to normal. Like in the next scene, like once Travis or whoever saves him, he's like back in his normal clothes, and it's just like, all right, I guess we're just gonna like pretend that didn't
almost like that demented scene never happened. Bert's gotta stay alive, so he had to do what he had to do.
That scene was so entertaining and memorable that it definitely at least moves the movie above Tremors 6.
There was no piss cage demented scene in 6.
No.
Or anything like that to
I was waiting, honestly, to see if they'd have some kind of ridiculous scene like that. I'm like, oh, maybe they'll just try to up the ante and have Bert just get crazier and crazier. But he really just was kind of regular old Bert in number 6, except he kept getting sick from the Tremors disease.
Oh, yeah, that was just annoying. It wasn't even like interesting or fun. It was just
It's like, I don't want scenes with random characters where Bert's like in the hospital. Bert has to be on screen or it's really not going to be entertaining.
It's not,
The side characters in Tremors 5 are better than in Tremors 6.
Less agitating. Less annoying.
Yeah, like they have that whole plot line where the South African local... I don't even remember what their jobs or whatever. But the people, they're like fighting graboids on their own. Remember? Like the woman with like the arrow or whatever.
I don't know if you call it the adventure, or outdoorsy.
So that was... They were definitely more exciting characters than in Tremors 6, where just a bunch of like... Oh, we didn't even discuss that annoying English scientist guy in Tremors 6. Oh, this is one character in Tremors 6 who's just... He talks in this like ridiculous voice that I'm pretty sure the actor was putting on, and it's just...
We have no idea. Was that some kind of accent?
Horrible.
No, I didn't recognize
weird, like,
any kind of country it was supposed to be. It was just
I thought he was English at first, but maybe it was just a weird voice. Like
it almost changed halfway through.
It was like different depending on the scene. He luckily got... We were actually rooting for him from the first scene he was in to get eaten.
He said, Bert, don't save him. Let him go, Bert.
Maybe Bert did let him just die. Remember Bert was like, I don't have a shot, but it's like, Bert, you've always got it.
Bert had a shot.
Bert's always got a shot.
But he listened to our advice. He took our advice. He said, I gotta let this guy go. He's no good. We jump back into 5. But what really kind of caught me off guard, maybe it shouldn't have, but also kind of pissed me off a little bit, was this... I don't know if you would call a nod or just stealing, but this shot-for-shot remake of the Jurassic Park kitchen scene.
Was bad. That was bad.
Where they have, I think it's the ass blasters come in, and they literally have like the same kind of color tones. It's the same metallic
and they
kitchen.
drove Jeeps that looked like Jurassic.
Yeah, they had the
Jeeps
Jurassic Park looking Jeeps. And they have the same shot with the hands. Blatantly
pushing the level of homage to just borderline
borderline plagiarism.
Plagiarism, exactly. Yeah,
and it was
Yeah, I guess it's Tremors 5, so who cares? But
right. I mean, there's homage and then there's
we care.
Plagiarism.
We care.
I got a little offended. I had to stick up for my man Spielberg. I was like, you can't disrespect Spielberg like this right now. So I was a little taken back at that.
My biggest problem with Tremors 5 is at the end. The finale of that film just became basically complete nonsense. Usually the Tremors finales are pretty simple. Usually it's like Bert shoots the last graboid or something and it like explodes. You know, they're not super complex. But the end of Tremors 5, they came in like the last 10 minutes or whatever. They came in with this bizarre, diluted plot idea of like, let's try to kill all the Tremors with lightning from the sky. Mm-hmm. It was just really weird how they introduced it. Like, you know, Bert's talking to the woman with the bow and arrow or whatever, and he's like, you know, she's like, let's shock the Tremors or whatever. You know, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. He's like, with what? And then she just goes, with that, and just points, and they just go to this bad CGI shot of just lightning in the sky, and then they just, I don't even know how they did it. I don't remember because I didn't understand what was happening at this point.
Yeah.
They somehow just channeled the lightning from the sky to just electrocute all the graboids and kill them.
Right.
But this wasn't like, it wasn't like they were discussing this like at some point in the movie or making a plan like, oh, what if we electrocute them? They just randomly said it in the last scene, just like, oh, you know, they're shooting at graboids, and then it's almost just like the script writers were just like, ah, let's just get rid of this. We're done. We don't want to write this anymore.
Yeah.
Just suddenly like, what if we used the lightning in the sky that's been there, I guess, all day just happening?
Yeah. I mean, it almost just looked like the camera pans up to a clear blue sky and they just throw in some CGI lightning. Then they kind of have this grand finale where I guess the last graboid gets electrocuted because they have a conveniently timed thunderstorm roll in. And when we find out Travis is Bert's son, roll credits.
Did they even like set up how they were building that like electric fence field thing, or was that just like in the last scene? Just like we have this because I don't remember like
seeing a building or anything like that.
And they could have had the non-Bert and Travis team. I don't remember any of the characters names, honestly. Who were back home, like fighting, or back on the complex fighting graboids alone. They could have had a plot line where they were like building that or something, but they just like don't. They're just also just fighting graboids randomly in certain scenes, and then at the end everyone just teams up and electrocutes someone. It's like, oh, okay, and then at the end it's just like, hey Pops, let's bond.
Yeah,
and then that's
Pops, huh?
That's Tremors.
That's Tremors 5.
That's Tremors 5 for you. Here's where I might break form. I feel like Tremors 4 might be a little more entertaining than Tremors 3.
Yeah, I mean, after watching 3, or hell, even while we were watching 3, we obviously noticed that they shifted almost completely, if I remember correctly, away from the practical effects, and they really started using the CGI effects. I mean, that's when they introduced the ass blasters in Tremors 3 Aftershocks. And they're not practical effects, folks. They're these poorly animated CGI, and
the CGI in Tremors 3 looks really bad. It doesn't hold up well.
Real bad.
And they'll switch back and forth mid-scene between practical and CGI effects, and it's very obvious when they do it. When they'll switch from the practical graboid close-ups to the CGI wide shots, it's like
night and day.
Like anyone would notice it. It's not subtle at all. They don't even look the same. I mean, it's a fairly old movie.
Yeah.
But
still, like I can't imagine anyone thought it looked great when they were making it, even in 2000, call it whatever, whenever they made it.
I mean, I'd imagine it was mostly just budgetary reasons, right?
Yeah,
they don't have enough budget or a big enough team anymore to keep making all these effects and putting in all these hours. Yeah. So if we could just cut costs by doing cheap computer animation for some of the monster shots.
Yeah, so...
But then the movie isn't as good because of that. It really isn't.
Granted, 3 introduced the ass blasters for us, which is one of the big pros of that movie.
Yeah, the ass blasters, even though they look horrible in the movie, they are fun. And there's been a lot of jokes that come out of, obviously, I mean, just even the name, ass blasters, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's sort of that fun leap into the Tremors movies just completely not taking themselves seriously at all anymore. Tremors 1 and 2 are still somewhat serious and just kind of some stakes. And then as soon as the ass blasters come into Tremors 3, it's just like, okay, we're basically just a comedy series at this point. It's better to embrace it than to try to keep making serious sequels in a franchise like Tremors. There's some genuinely bad acting in Tremors 3.
Oh, dude.
There's this girl, the blonde girl.
Yeah.
She's in the first one. She's like little in the first one. She's the blonde girl from Jurassic Park. Ariana Richards. So she plays Mindy in Tremors 1, and then she comes, and she's like a kid in that one, like a little kid. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like her acting in that one was just on par with the rest. She was better than that teenage boy in the first one, Melvin. That guy was awful. In Tremors 3, she comes back and she's like, probably like, I think she's supposed to be like a teenager. Right. The actress is probably between like 18 and 25. You know, she's like a young adult, and her acting is genuinely bad. And there's like that one scene when they're like inside the store or whatever, and she puts that turkey in the microwave for like 60 seconds and throws it into a Tremor's mouth because or sorry, not into a Tremor's mouth. I just made the meta mistake. It was either 2 or 3 where like, remember there was that part when the kid, there was like, it must have been 3 when the kid was on the tour or whatever, and he's like, "Look, Mom, a tremor."
Right.
And we were like, that line doesn't actually make any sense because in the context of the film, the monsters are called graboids or ass blasters. They don't call them tremors ever.
Right.
You only know the word tremors if you've seen the movie Tremors.
So a bit of a meta mistake.
Yeah, kind of a meta mistake. It's into an ass blaster's mouth, and then he like explodes because I think if you feed ass blasters in that movie, they blow up for some reason.
He explodes or he falls asleep, one or the other.
Yeah, Tremors 3 was pretty stupid. Most of the acting was just normal Tremors acting, never excellent. Except for the first one, it's pretty good, but after that, it's never excellent. But then there's Mindy is just like there's always a couple characters that just really stick out as not being good at all. And
right.
She's got to be one of the worst. I think she's worse than the kid in Tremors 4. Like he just delivers lines badly, but like whatever. Next on our ranking, Tremors 4. The Legend Begins. Yeah, this one is sort of a slow burn. It's set in the Wild West. It's it's a prequel film where Michael Gross plays Hiram Gummer, which is he's an ancestor to Burt Gummer. Yeah. But he's not like Burt. He's different. He's
very much the opposite.
He's a sophisticated gentleman who comes from money, who rides a bicycle and doesn't know anything about guns.
Right.
And
doesn't know anything about much actually. He just kind of
he's pretty useless actually.
Arrives, shows up and just kind of.
It's the classic, like, rich, spoiled character learns how to be a real human being from regular town folk kind of idea you see in a lot of movies or whatever. Like they give each other things and they learn about themselves, and
there's the reported graboid attack in the coal mine.
And he owns the mine and he shows up and he's like, "There's nothing here," and then of course there's graboids.
Of course, the graboids tragically. They get soggy, unfortunately. Spoilers.
They do get soggy, who was this very irritating side character whose only character trait was spitting out chewing tobacco. We thought he was very gross and actually were rooting for him to get eaten, and he got eaten quickly, which was good.
Yeah.
If he was in the whole movie, it actually would have been worse. It would have been a detriment to the film.
Bert's ancestor Hiram shows up, and you think he's gonna kind of be the Bert,
Yeah, I thought he was just gonna act exactly like Bert, honestly, and just be dressed differently. But I mean, I guess I'll give him credit for writing a new character. Yeah, and it was kind of cool to see Michael Gross not play Bert.
At least not right away. He kind of becomes Bert by the end of the film.
By the end, you start to see the inklings of how his family lineage leads to the Bert that we know and love. He even ends up with a red-headed woman, just like Bert does, which is weird and eerie.
Right on. So they hire the gunslinger.
The gunslinger guy,
badass kind of and he just show up and save the day.
Gets eaten in like 15 minutes.
He doesn't last long. He gets eaten in the barn or whatever it is.
That surprised me, though. I'll give him that from a plot standpoint. I guess Tremors 4 did a good job of, like, when they would introduce like ridiculously cartoonish characters, they just kind of pick them off before they get too annoying.
Yeah.
Soggy and the gunslinger are so stupid. It's just like, alright, when they're gone, nobody really cares.
Hiram wants to go jump ship, leave the town, because he's like, I gotta get out of here. This is crazy. I don't know what I'm doing. The mine's lost, blah, blah, blah. They try to blackmail him, but you can't blackmail a Gummer. And getting on the train station, get ready to buy his tickets, and he finds out that he's getting a telegraph at the station about worms, and then he, has to go back, and little Chumble Kid's like, look, it's Hiram, and he's giving him the bike.
Yeah, and, they have this, he has this heartwarming plot.
Yeah.
Where Bert becomes fond of this kid who lives in the town, and he gives him his bicycle.
first,
Bicycles I think were like this new
kind
thing
of, yeah, like
town, it was like when they were new, like
a flex to have one, kind of,
But like anything new when it comes out, only rich people at first could have.
The first encounter that Hiram has with this little, boy here, Hiram demands that they make a cake for him upon his arrival. He offers
he demands it for dinner. He's like, "What's on the menu for dinner?" And I think the woman who ran the hotel or whatever was like, "We have like soup or beans or something." Okay, then she's like, "We're low on supplies at the moment because the town is losing money because the mine is shut down." And then he's like, "You must have molasses and sugar. Bake me a cake." And I was like, "You want a cake for like dinner?" But
yeah.
And then he offers the cake to the kid, like the last piece of cake.
Yeah.
And then the kid comes back with a fork or whatever, and Hiram has eaten the cake. And what was the lesson of?
It was like,
if you can take advantage of someone, always do it.
That was essentially what he said to him.
Weird lesson, even for a cartoonish character like him to be trying to teach a child.
Like, that was kind of a mean thing to do. But then the little kid flips it on him 10 minutes later, where he repairs his bike, and then he's like, "I want $5. I fixed your bike. See, I'm exploiting you like you taught me."
And then he's like, "I like this kid."
So there's all that beautiful character development, and then when we get to the end, there's the heartfelt reunion.
Yeah.
Hiram comes back. He gets a bunch of weapons, which we don't exactly remember.
I don't know how he comes back from the train station. He's got like a crate of weapons, but then he's got the ridiculous.
Oh my god!
I'll have to put a picture in for you guys.
Yeah, look at. Can we put it on the screen, Pat? Look.
He gets this giant. It looks like a cannon, but it's just a giant pistol, like a cannon-sized pistol with a trigger.
Yeah.
And Hiram is useless with it. He's not like Bert.
No,
he's not like his lineage. He can't use weapons at all. It's a miracle they got out of that graboid situation alive.
He mounts it on this wagon, and then the damn thing's 2 inches out from his barrel, and he still finds a way to miss. And then another graboid comes and it just takes it away. It was kind of like, why did you bother putting this ridiculous giant toy cannon pistol rifle gun? It doesn't do anything.
From a filmmaking standpoint, it's like, why are we going to have this big reveal of this crazy cartoonish weapon and then barely utilize it? Overall, the film, I think just in terms of creativity points is why I would probably put it above 3. Alright, coming up next on the rankings list. You probably predicted it at this point, but it's Tremors 2. So this one sees Earl from the first movie, who's one of the 2 main protagonists, actually does return for this. Val doesn't. Like we said earlier, they explain that he made a bunch of money and just leaves or something. Some silly way of writing him out. And some cocky young kid shows up, whatever, and he's like, "Earl, we gotta..." I don't even remember.
There was some, I guess, like in all reports of more graboid.
Yeah, well, it was basically the plot that they do with Bert in every subsequent sequel, where someone shows up and they're like, "Bert, there's graboids, come fight him." Except in that one, it's Earl.
Right.
And they probably would have just kept doing that kind of plot line with Earl, and then have Bert just be a side character. Except then after 2, Earl also quit doing the movie. So then it's like, well, Michael Gross still wants to do it, so.
Next man up is Bert.
Took you 3 films, but you're the lead now. If you quit, I guess we'll have the blonde girl from Jurassic Park. Tremors 2 it's definitely a downgrade from Tremors 1. It's basically a goofier, more ridiculous version of the first one.
Yeah, he's got that cool scene though where Bert has they discover the mutation, if you will, the graboids to the I think they call him the Shrieker. They got the little thermal thing that comes up on the head. The little chompy, clompy ones with the little, hop around. He's got his rifle and, he's got the 1 shot left or something. He's got this cool, elephant rifle and he's like, "You want maximum penetration, right?" So he, shoots it and explodes it off this car it was gnawing on because, kid, they like heat or whatever. And they're, making their escape to the Jeep or the truck or whatever. And they're kind of walking over to the scene. They see, obviously, they killed the graboid and, they're looking at all the walls and objects in the background that this maximum penetration bullet has traveled through, and it keeps one after the other, ripped through the next wall to the next wall, and following the trail, so to speak, and finally get to the Jeep that they were going to use for their escape. And the bullet went right through the engine and, I don't know, hit the oil or something, and took the Jeep out of the picture, and they couldn't use that to escape. That was just a classic Bert moment right there.
That was a classic Bert
clutch shot, but at what cost?
But Tremors 2 starts to see some of those ideas that get continued of, mutations and the monsters and new versions of the monsters.
Right.
Tremors 2 was still all practical effects, I think, at that point too. Still having, a couple more of the original characters in there, and those practical effects definitely keep it feeling more like the original and what made the original charming. You know, overall, pretty fun sequel. Now we're on to number one, baby.
Yeah.
The original Tremors, 1990.
Not a surprise. Everyone kind of saw this one as the best Tremors movie. Obviously, you open up with Kevin Bacon, a young Kevin Bacon, as we had mentioned earlier, starring alongside Earl, played by
Fred Ward. Val and Earl are like, like handyman. Yeah.
Out in the perfection Nevada.
You know, kind of talking about how they want to, do something bigger. Right. About to leave
the town. Fate kind of calls them back to perfection, and they
gotta kind of become heroes. And they learn a little bit about themselves. You know, Kevin Bacon goes from cocky kid with pictures of blonde models and it all over his car to wanting to be romantically involved with the intelligent scientist. You know, and everything's new. Also, when you watch the first one, all the graboid lore.
Yeah, it's all being kind of laid out as you go.
And it doesn't feel quite as ridiculous like when the scientist shows up and she's explaining all these pretend science terms. And it's all new, so it doesn't feel as ridiculous. Nothing's ass blasting yet.
Earl's all like, "Help me, Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda." Ooh. You know? Now, when we were first watching it, Pat, the opening scene there, you weren't really too sure if you were sold yet, right?
I wasn't sure if I was sold because the dialogue feels really silly, and it took me a few minutes to realize that the script is really self-aware, and it's supposed to be comedic. So then I quickly was like, oh, actually, I am really enjoying this, especially when you start seeing those really good special effects come in. And and the acting actually is good compared to the sequels. It's a classic. You get pumped up for 7. We'll see how much action he's still involved in, because Michael Gross is getting old, but more power to him. He's sticking with the movies. If he sticks with them, we'll keep watching.
That's it. As long as he's starring in them.
Maybe let's get to 10 movies, then we'll do a re-rank.
Well, thanks again for tuning in, and this has been our critique of the Tremors movies. Ranking them, worst to best, some of our favorite moments, giving you a little fill-in of the lore, so you kind of know what to expect. Like we said, we warned you about the spoilers, so if you saw those spoiler warnings, here's another spoiler warning. Spoilers! Be careful! And we'll catch you on the next one.